How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware, and we've got a big video today because all of the pieces are falling in place. It looks like Valve's putting the finishing touches on everything related to the Steam machine, so let's just go through it all. Before I jump into the video, I've got to shout out my Instagram, Champagne Ready, real quick. I've been making tons of videos over there about all the games I'm playing in addition to Steam hardware updates. So if you're on Instagram and you're looking for more videos from me, check it out, give it a follow. It's linked in the description. All right, with the intro out of the way, let's get into the actual video here. I've been working on this all weekend, digging through all the SteamOS updates, and all of this first part has to do with the second clutch update that's simultaneously being worked on in tandem for preview and beta. So like when they make the features for preview, they test them, they bump them down to beta. I think some of them have made it to stable, but a lot of the ones we're about to talk about have not yet. And it looks like these are going to coincide with or around the launch of the Steam machine. All of this will come to the Steam Deck as well, and I'm sure a lot of these features will come to the Steam Frame at launch whenever that thing comes out. So the first bullet point we've seen more and more lately is initial support for the Steam machine. So that just tells you right there, they're adding in specific features like the welcome tour, but then they actually get granular with a lot of features that I think are covered under the umbrella of initial support for the Steam machine. The first one of those things being an improved graphics driver. So this is obviously exciting because since the Steam Deck came out, the performance gains we get with each tailored graphics driver from Valve cannot be understated. Like, it has fixed very specific games that had weird issues, like Batman Arkham Asylum is the one that always comes to mind. So it's exciting whenever Valve ships a new graphics driver because unlike other distros like Bazzite or CachyOS, which get the Mesa updates a lot quicker, Valve goes through a lot of work to fine tune these drivers for their specific hardware, like the Steam Deck, like the upcoming Steam machine, and a lot of the third-party handhelds like the Legion line and the Ally line. So when you get a new graphics driver from Valve, it's usually coinciding with a big SteamOS update or a new hardware release. This time we're talking about the release of the Steam machine, so all of that is lining up perfectly. I've been using this graphics driver both on my SteamOS PC and my Steam Deck. It's been working great. I mean, they've had them pretty ironed out for the past couple of years at this point, but there has been just overall stability improvements across the board. Like, one example is a game I've been replaying, Control. That game used to have weird stuttering issues and weird slowdown issues, and fingers crossed that it actually went away, but I'm about a quarter through the game at this point on my Steam Deck for my current fourth playthrough of this game, which is incredible. And I have not seen many, if any at all, of these slowdowns that I'd gotten so used to over the past couple of years. So this graphics driver looks like it's going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting. And in terms of actually installing the updates, one weird thing that's popped up over the past year or so, I would say, is that when you go to apply the update before you restart your Steam Deck or your PC, it's just taken longer and longer as time has gone on. And then suddenly, like overnight, I got a new SteamOS preview update. And ever since that update, it's been a lot quicker. Now, I've been scanning all of the patch and release notes for these updates, and they've never mentioned it until now. So yes, they did put in extra work to make it so that when you have a fast internet connection, which I do, I have a gig up and down all over my house, these updates will apply a lot faster. Like we saw with the Steam controller, I'd imagine that once the Steam machine actually comes out, we'll see these updates coming in multiple times a day, if not every single day. So having them apply quicker is just great, because if they take forever to apply, then on Valve's side, it becomes a problem because there could be a critical fix in one of these updates. But if you update too often, too quickly, people get sick of it, and then they'll just leave that little gear with the exclamation point as long as they possibly can, because when you sit down to boot up your Steam machine or boot up your Steam Deck, it's usually at the end of a workday, and you don't want to just sit there waiting for your hardware to update. And if you know it takes forever, which up until recently it has, you're never going to update, and that sucks because there's a lot of great features coming to SteamOS over time. And more recently, almost every SteamOS update has included security features, which, you know, you want to have those, especially considering how much hacking and scamming is going on in the world right now. So making those apply quicker, great, just in time for the Steam machine, because, you know, like, they're going to release 10 updates in the first week of this thing being out. Just prepare yourself for that. If you have a data limit, maybe don't download a bunch of games until after your Steam machine is fully updated. They also improved HDMI support a lot. I did not realize how much work goes into making sure HDMI works correctly. Still fingers crossed that 2.1 will be ready for launch, if not soon after. But in the meantime, they've made hot plugging a lot quicker and easier. Like if your PC is already on or your Steam machine, like just plugging in the cord instead of powering it off, plugging it in and powering it back on, that should work correctly now, which is good. And most importantly for the Steam machine, because of its like mid-range power, I would say they've drastically improved VRR frame times, which, you know, is nice because the whole purpose of VRR is to compensate for games that run between like 48 and 60 FPS. So anything older in Unreal Engine 5 that's not using the current version of Unreal that actually runs well, if you see your frame rate drop into the low 50s or high 40s, you don't want the frame pacing to be all out of whack, because the whole reason VRR exists is to smooth out frame drops. So you don't want to introduce frame pacing issues because that just defeats the entire purpose. I have not messed around with this because I'm fortunate enough to have a PC that doesn't really need VRR. Like my 9070 XT rips through every game I throw at it, and on the Steam Deck you don't have VRR support on the screen. So hopefully we could just take them at their word and VRR works correctly out of the box, because even though more games than ever are coming out optimized, I'm sure developers are just waiting for that opportunity when, you know, prices go down and they can just hope people buy more expensive PCs with better parts and just rely on them brute forcing it. So having VRR figured out before it's necessary is just good in my opinion, and I'm glad they're getting it ready before the Steam machine launches. This has been in a lot of updates lately, and because the Steam machine is a PC at heart, they've really made some big improvements on the desktop side to really clean things up. So they took KDE Plasma from 6.2.5 all the way up to 6.4.3. So that's a pretty big jump. The biggest win that comes along with this is the performance regression in desktop mode has been repaired, which is huge because for some reason, ever since the Steam Deck came out, you'd always have to play in game mode. And if you were in desktop mode, you'd see like 5 to 6 FPS less in any game you were playing, even if you match the settings and the resolution, which was just weird. I can confirm that the performance has been excellent in desktop mode because I've had to launch a few games in desktop mode on my SteamOS PC. So that's a huge improvement right out of the gate. They've improved support for rotated displays. So if you're one of those people who have multiple monitors and you've got a vertical setup for reading articles or writing or, you know, using Blender or something like that, you should get better support right out of the box from the Steam machine. They've also improved the out of the box scale factor when you plug your PC into a TV. So like that's a huge improvement because you just want it to be plug and play. That's the whole point of buying something like the Steam machine. And this last one, I just can't believe was never in SteamOS already, but there's per display scaling. So if you have a 1080p monitor and a 1440p monitor, it'll scale correctly. So things don't look really tiny on one monitor and, you know, really huge on the other. You can unify it across your monitors while taking advantage of the full resolution of both. I mean, this stuff seems so simple, but when you're building out a new platform from the ground up, I'd imagine there's like a lot of little things that you'd like normally take as a given on like an Xbox or a Windows PC that they just have to figure out how to build from scratch in Linux, and I'm glad they're putting in the work. And like I mentioned, this all made its way down to beta from preview. So if you're on the beta channel, you should be able to take advantage of all of these features now, and there's even more. There's like bug fixes, there's extra features added. So as always, go over to the Steam Deck SteamOS blog where they make posts with every single update and dig through it, because there is so much info there, but it's very clear that they're building this out for the launch of the Steam machine, and I could not be more excited. But we have even more signs that things are falling into place right in time for the Steam machine, and this one is weirdly thanks to Epic Games. So I don't need to relitigate this, I don't think, but one of the big issues with Steam Deck and now Steam machine and any device using Linux has to do with anti-cheat. It's why you can't play games like Destiny 2. It's why you can't play games like Call of Duty or Battlefield. And one of the most common forms of anti-cheat that you see on PC right now is Easy Anti-Cheat, which is of course developed by Epic Games. And I would say, you know, the relationship between Epic Games and us Linux gamers has not been great. Like, they do put in the work on some things. There is a functional version of Easy Anti-Cheat for Linux, but it's kind of behind the times and it's slow, and it like update to the game can break it, whatever game it is, like Dead by Daylight, for example. Some updates break the anti-cheat, and then you got to go pull a version that works and drag it into the file, and it's just like annoying as hell. So like, some things they're good at, most things they're not, but it looks like they really are realizing how important Linux is to PC gaming as a whole, because they have a job listing out right now for Easy Anti-Cheat that's very interesting, especially when you consider the timing of everything going on right now. So the job listing is for a higher up role here at Epic Games. It's for a senior game security engineer, which is crazy. And one of the job requirements is that you have a deep understanding of Linux, but it goes even further than that because you'll have to champion Linux anti-cheat capabilities for Epic. And when I read this job listing, I mean, all it says to me is that Epic clearly sees where the wind is blowing. A lot of these publishers have been able to get away with ignoring Linux for years now, if not decades, because like, let's just be real, the numbers weren't there, right? Like all of your support should probably go to Windows because that's what 95% of people playing on PC use. And if you're spending a lot of money building out anti-cheat, which is unfortunately becoming more and more necessary as time goes on and scamming and hacking gets out of control, you're going to put your money where the people are. And unfortunately for us, up until now, all the people have been on Windows, but that's kind of changing a little bit with Linux basically having, I don't know, somewhere in the realm of 5% of overall users in PC gaming. And I know 5% doesn't really seem like all that much, but when you consider that you're talking about a group of like tens, if not hundreds of millions of people, 5% suddenly becomes a lot more important. So Epic, whether they want to or not, is realizing that they have to support Linux with their easy anti-cheat going forward. And obviously I see this as a good thing because while the Steam Deck was pretty popular, especially for a niche handheld gaming device, for some reason, people just like TV consoles a lot more than handheld. So like, I think Valve, on the other hand, is going to run into some issues of demand, even if they price this thing pretty high, which like all signs are pointing to them doing. I think the market overall still will be bigger for the Steam Machine than they ever even hoped it would be. And especially when you compare it to the Steam Deck, I think it'll be a lot bigger than demand ever was for that. So Epic just sees a lot of potential customers. And I know that the easy answer is like, oh man, Fortnite's coming to Linux, which is cool. But a lot of third-party games, not even published by Epic, use easy anti-cheat, like Lords of the Fallen. I've been playing that again to lead up to the second game. That has the easy anti-cheat splash screen. And that's another game where updates can constantly break it. So to have a person there to make sure they're championing anti-cheat on Linux is good because, you know, another part of their role is definitely going to be going to third-party publishers or developers who are making games with multiplayer and saying, yeah, you could use Ricochet or BattlEye or whatever, or you could use easy anti-cheat and cover this many more people who are on Steam Deck, Steam Machine, Legion Go S, or Legion Go 2 with SteamOS, and that's a big group of people, and you're going to want to do that. So this person's role, I fear, is going to be very important at Epic Games. And I know it's going to take a little bit to get this off the ground, up and running, but it already pretty much works on Linux, so just having a check in place, like an executive who can make sure every feature of the anti-cheat is going through correctly so they don't have to change versions all the time. That's really important. And the timing couldn't be better because it really does look like the Steam Machine is right around the corner. So in addition to what my friend Ray and I from Xbox Ready covered here on the channel last week, which I would consider concrete evidence because it's all public info, there are leaks going around from Steam hardware updates on X. And I'm just saying, take it with a big grain of salt because it's not an official source, even though they do have a really good track record. And I've talked to other YouTubers who would have Steam hardware early. And as far as I know, no one has the Steam Machine or Steam Frame just yet in my circle. So I'm not really willing to say that review units are out there, but there is a Steam Machine out there based on the pictures I've seen, which are, you know, posted on X. So you can go find that if you want. Either way, I'm still very confident that they will hit that first half of 2026 release date. And I'm just like, mentally speaking, when we're talking about price, I'm in that it is what it is territory. Steam hardware has always been more than price to performance to me. You guys know that. So like, I'm in on this ecosystem. That's where I'd like to be. If you're feeling differently, you want to build a PC, I'm fine with that. Valve's fine with that. More power to you. If you want to get a PS5, more power to you. I don't really care where you play your games. I personally am very excited for the Steam Machine, and barring an absolutely just astronomically insane price, I will be buying one because, as we all know, Valve does not send me anything early. I think the way the ratio is going to work out is that the higher the price is, the more critical everyone is going to be and should be, because the higher the price gets, the more work you have to put in on the performance and experience side to back it up, like any product out there, not just from Valve. But yeah, I'm extremely excited still. Everything seems like it's falling into place. I think the last big checkbox that they have to check off is, of course, HDMI 2.1, but if they support 120 FPS on a 120 hertz TV out of the box, it's just lack of knowledge, but I think that's probably good enough. Like, I play games at 60 FPS, so it's kind of a blind spot for me. I think VRR is going to be a lot more beneficial to me with the Steam Machine than something like 120 FPS. I know they've said it'll play games up to 4K 120, but that seems like in the realm of, you know, when PlayStation was putting an 8K badge on the box of the PS5. Because I don't know, when they say 4K 120 for the Steam Machine, I think we all know what kind of games they're talking about. Older stuff like Half-Life 2 should be no problem. Newer indie games should be just fine. Terraria, for example, like all of those will definitely be just fine at 4K 120. But if you're talking about something like Lords of the Fallen, I think hoping for 60 FPS is probably where our sights should align. The point I'm making is every game is different, but yeah, that about brings me to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for all of the support on the 2-host video with Ray. If you're not a longtime viewer, I used to live in Los Angeles and me and Ray had a studio and we would do those videos every single week on Xbox Ready, PS Ready, and we never actually did it on Deck Ready. I think that was Ray's second appearance here on the channel because he was in a video that I filmed at his apartment last weekend. He had to remind me, which is crazy because it was a week ago. But yeah, I mean, with Xbox kind of targeting PC, he just kind of naturally fits, I think. And I was excited to see that people were happy to hear his takes here on the channel. So we're going to do our best to make sure we keep that up every week. It's like a mini podcast. So yeah, I'm excited to see that people were so receptive to it. Also, just want to shout out my Instagram again, Champagne Ready. I'm covering games, I'm covering PC, I'm covering SteamOS. I'm just having fun with those videos. So if you want a less produced look at my thoughts on games, definitely give it a follow. It's linked in the description and all over the channel. But anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in this one. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.